One of the most powerful blockchains on Earth just quietly proposed, copying an idea it spent years pretending didn't exist. And the man who built that idea saw it, and he did not stay quiet. He called it, and I'm quoting him directly, literally a crime. What follows is a story about ego, about who really invents things in technology, and about a 10-year grudge that just exploded into the open. Stick with me, because underneath the drama is a genuinely important question that almost nobody in crypto wants to answer honestly. Let me set the stage. On one side, you have Ethereum, the second biggest cryptocurrency in the world, worth hundreds of billions of dollars, the settlement layer for most of what people call decentralized finance. On the other side, you have Cardano and its founder, Charles Hoskinson. And here's the twist that makes this so spicy. Hoskinson isn't some outsider throwing rocks at Ethereum. He helped create Ethereum. He was one of its 8 original co-founders, before a famous falling out pushed him out the door and he went off to build a rival, Cardano, in its own image. So, this isn't a normal competitor feud. This is family. This is the co-founder who left, built his own thing, spent a decade insisting his way was better, and just watched his old house start borrowing his furniture. And the breakup itself was bitter. Back in the early days, Hoskinson wanted Ethereum to become a venture-backed company with a CEO, himself at the top. Others, including a young Vitalik Buterin, wanted it to stay a non-profit, community-driven project. Hoskinson lost that argument, and he was pushed out. That's the wound underneath all of this. For over 10 years, he has been the co-founder who was shown the door, and Cardano has, in a very real sense, been his answer to it. His proof that his instincts were right. So, when Ethereum reaches for one of his core ideas without saying his name, it doesn't just poke at Cardano's technology. It presses on the oldest bruise he has. To understand why he's this worked up, you need to understand the actual disagreement. And I promise to make this simple because it's the heart of the whole thing. Every blockchain has to answer one boring but fundamental question. How do you keep track of who owns what? And there are two big philosophies. Ethereum uses what's called an account model. Think of it like your bank account. There's a running balance. Money comes in, the number goes up. Money goes out, the number goes down. One global ledger, constantly updated, tracking everyone's balance as a living number. It's intuitive. It's the way most people already think about money. Cardano chose the other path. It uses a model called EUTXO, and the simplest way to picture it is physical cash. Instead of one running balance, your money exists as a set of distinct chunks, like individual bills and coins in your wallet. When you spend, you hand over specific bills, they get destroyed, and you get new ones back as change. Nothing is a running total. Everything is a discrete, self-contained piece. Bitcoin actually pioneered this basic idea, and Cardano extended it. That's what the E in EUTXO stands for, so it could run complex smart contracts too. Now, why would anyone prefer the messy cash model over a clean bank balance? Because it has real technical advantages. When each transaction only depends on the specific pieces it touches, and not on one giant global state that everyone is fighting to update at once, you get some genuinely nice properties. Fees become more predictable, you can process things in parallel, and you're much more resistant to a nasty problem where bots watch pending transactions and jump ahead of them to steal value, something Ethereum users have bled billions to over the years. For 10 years, Hoskinson has argued this design is simply more sound, and for 10 years, the Ethereum world mostly rolled its eyes at Cardano. It became a bit of a punchline, in certain circles dismissed as slow, over-academic, a chain with beautiful research papers and not much happening on it. So, imagine how it felt for Hoskinson when, this month, a well-known Ethereum researcher published a formal proposal, EIP 8141, suggesting Ethereum adopt UTXO-style mechanics to fix one of its deepest problems. Ethereum's global state has become massively bloated, and this proposal claims it could shrink that footprint by an almost unbelievable 99.8%. The fix, essentially, borrows the exact philosophy Cardano bet everything on. And that's when Hoskinson lit the fuse. His complaint wasn't really that Ethereum is exploring the idea. Ideas get shared. That's how technology works. His fury was about the silence around it. He said, and this is the quote making the rounds, that it's literally a crime in the Ethereum inner circles to mention Cardano. His point was that Ethereum is quietly reaching for a design his project has run in production for years, while it remains taboo, almost forbidden, to actually credit where that approach was proven. He pointed out with obvious bitterness that he spent over a decade of his life on this, that he launched a top 3 cryptocurrency with millions of users specifically to deploy this idea. And now, the big kid on the block is picking it up without so much as a nod in his direction. A day later, he kept swinging, taking shots at how Ethereum handles staking too. This was not a man in a forgiving mood. Now here's where I have to put my honest hat on, because it would be easy to just cheer for the underdog, and the truth is messier than the headline. Let me give you the other side, because it matters. First, EUTXO was not purely Hoskinson's invention. The core idea, tracking money as discrete unspent outputs, came from Bitcoin, years before Cardano existed. Cardano extended it, and that's a real contribution. But the "I invented this" framing is doing a lot of heavy lifting. Second, EIP-8141 is not Ethereum secretly becoming Cardano. It's a targeted fix for a specific problem, state bloat, that happens to borrow a known technique. Engineers borrow good ideas from everywhere. That's not theft. That's the entire history of computing. If every engineer had to write a thank you note to the first person who used an idea, nothing would ever ship. So, is Hoskinson a vindicated pioneer, finally watching the mainstream admit he was right all along? Or is he a founder nursing a 10-year grudge, overclaiming credit for an idea with older roots, spinning a technical proposal into a personal vendetta? And here's my actual take. It's both. It can be completely true that Cardano's design was genuinely ahead of its time, and true that Hoskinson is being a little dramatic about the credit. Those aren't contradictions. That's just what wounded pride and real vision look like when they live in the same person. But the reason this story matters beyond the soap opera is a hard question crypto keeps dodging. Does being right early actually matter if almost nobody uses your chain? Because that's the quiet, brutal subplot here. Cardano's token, ADA, is trading down around 17 cents. It's had a rough stretch, still a fraction of its old highs, testing whether it can even hold its ground and push back toward the 20-cent level. Meanwhile, Ethereum, the chain Hoskinson says is copying him, sits on a valuation many, many times larger, with a sprawling ecosystem of real applications. In technology, the more elegant design does not always win. VHS beat Betamax. The market rewards adoption, timing, and network effects at least as much as it rewards being technically correct. And that has to sting more than any copied proposal ever could. To watch the world validate your idea, precisely as it ignores your product. So, where do I land? I think Hoskinson is partly right and partly just hurt, and both of those things are human. Ethereum quietly borrowing from the UTXO world is a real and honestly fascinating admission that the account model has limits worth engineering around. That's a genuine intellectual win for the design Cardano championed. But a design win is not a market win, and Hoskinson calling it a crime tells you at least as much about a decade of accumulated resentment as it does about the technology itself. Watch what happens next. If EIP-8141 gains real traction, expect this feud to get louder, not quieter, because every step Ethereum takes toward UTXO ideas is another day Hoskinson gets to say, "I told you so," to a room that still refuses to say his project's name. And whether that ever translates into a single new user for Cardano is the only question that will actually matter when the shouting dies down. If you like business and crypto stories, where I actually explain the machine under the drama, and give you the honest version instead of the tribal one. Subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.